you everyone for showing. Number two, if you could put your cameras on. We do not bite. We will not make faces at you, but it's always good to see who we're talking to. So if you could do that, that'd be great. Uh-oh. My humor must not have gone too far. No one put their camera on. Okay, so we are here to talk about the Changemaker Challenge. And before we get going into the program, I just want to update you on a couple coming events and occurrences. So the submission deadline for the Changemaker Challenge is February 1st at 11:59 p.m. As any of you who have been around IEI know, we are very firm on our submission deadlines. So if you plan to submit, and hopefully you will be inspired to after today's session, as well as by your own passion, focus in on February 1st. And if you scan that code, it will take you exactly where you need to go to register to submit and begin your submission. A week from today, we have another session about how to fund your social impact venture. And we have one star presenter. It's Ellen Weber. Some of you may know Ellen. She's executive director of Mid-Atlantic Ventures. She used to be executive director of IEI, but sort of one of many claims to fame is she has for a number of years headed up the largest angel venture group in Philadelphia called Robinhood. And long before anyone was even talking about the need for additional funding for females, for excluded populations, Ellen was fighting the good fight and made a lot of what's going on today possible, and has repeatedly been cited as one of Philadelphia's 100 most influential people by Philadelphia Magazine. And what's really nice is Ellen will be covering both for-profit funding as well as not-for-profit funding. So you really get a good, broad aspect from Ellen, including key issues like, when do you really need to go for money? Because if you don't need money, you don't want to go for it, because you're going to be giving up part of what you have and what you own. And also the best ways to try to go after money when you do need it. So again, scan here and you could register for this event a week from today. Okay, for anyone interested in submitting a Changemaker Challenge, one of the real benefits is that you get expert mentoring. And this is something that typically is not available to the average student, average alum, average staff or faculty. And that will be happening on January 30th at 5:00 p.m. And again, you scan here to register. I don't care if you started 10 social impact functions or ventures, you can always learn from these experts. I continually am learning every time I listen to them talk to anyone. So please be sure to sign up for that. Okay, so before we jump into the show, I would like to ask our panelists to briefly introduce themselves. And of course, with no rehearsal, I'll say, talk about when you graduated Temple, what your major was, and sort of the business you started or social impact venture. And then after that, I'm going to introduce the MC and she'll ask you the tough questions. So why don't we start with you, James?
Hi, thank you, Alan. Yeah, it's great to be here. I remember sitting and like watching this panel last year, and it really helped me. So I hope you all get the same benefits like that I got last year. So, but yeah, I'm James. I graduated with my degree in mechanical engineering just this past spring, and so I am now full time doing Liquid Limbs, which is my venture that I first started with the Changemaker Challenge last year. Was something that started as my senior design project to help people with lower limb amputations to stand in the shower. It's something that I've recognized as a really big problem and been really passionate about solving. And so we've been doing that through Liquid Limbs, and we've come a long way since last year. I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's really great to be here, and I hope you all learn from my experiences and can take something from it. So thank you so much.
Okay, great. Caitlin.
Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin. I graduated from Temple in the spring of 2021 with a degree in marketing and minor in management information systems. My startup was My Teleheal, and my co-founder and I started that in August of 2020. And I was involved in the Changemaker Challenge in February 2021 and won second place. And my startup was a mental health telehealth startup for non-English speaking immigrants.
Great. Great. Will.
Thanks, Alan. Hi, everybody. I'm Will Bubenik. It's great to connect with all of you today. I am one of the older ones of the bunch. I graduated from Temple in 2018 from the School of Sport, Tourism, Hospitality Management with a degree in Sport and Recreation Management and a minor in Entrepreneurship Innovation Management. My company is Nebula Media Group. We make sure websites and content are accessible so people with disabilities can properly access them. So excited to take part in this discussion today.
Great. And next, Chloe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chloe, and I graduated in December of 2021. So I had a winter graduation. I was a communications major in the Klein College of Media Communication, and my minor was in management consulting, which was in the Fox School of Business. So I really enjoyed sort of that, well-rounded education I had. And my business or my product idea was something called Firefinder. And what I created it to be was a 360-degree long-range fire detection and communication system. And yeah, that was my startup idea. And it's lovely to see you all and meet you all.
Great. Well, I will tell you that in addition to being social impact entrepreneurs, Will, James, Chloe, and Caitlin are also amazing people, good people, fun people. And no matter what you do, and sorry for volunteering each of you panelists, they're great people to get to know and stay in contact with. Okay, at this point, I would like to introduce our MC to lead the show the rest of the way. She is Ellie Keaton. Ellie is a student worker, but the way we like to, for IEI, the way we like to think of her is as the IEI External Engagement Coordinator Extraordinaire. And Ellie's a big part of everything we do in IEI, and will now take the panel through a number of questions. Before Ellie starts, we will talk for the panel probably go to about 5:50, maybe a little bit later, and then we'll have time for Q&A. But if you want to put your Q&A in the chat just as they come to you, then we'll follow up and be sure to cover those at the end of the program. Okay, Ellie, all yours.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie, as Alan said. It's so nice to see how many people we have here. We can just kick it off with our first question for the panelists. I would love to hear more about how each of you heard about the Changemaker Challenge. So, Will, if you'd like to start with how you heard about the Changemaker Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So STHM is adjacent to the Fox School of Business, and I always had an interest in entrepreneurship. And so once I get into something, I kind of dive in and just want to be a part of all the different things. So signed up for email marketing lists, was able to look at bulletin boards, and saw the that there were different events that were going to be happening throughout IEI. And so getting involved really early allowed me to kind of keep my ear to the ground, and saw that there was this type of opportunity out there. And as someone that's socially driven, man, it seemed almost too good to be true, but thankfully it was true.
Okay, awesome. And I'd just like to ask a follow-up that maybe each of you can answer in addition to that when you're answering that, and what motivated you to enter the competition. I heard that you said that you were very socially focused, but was there anything specific about the competition that motivated you to enter?
Yeah, I think the social impact variable is the kind of the biggest thing for me, is that I want to do things that have impact. I learned about the concepts of social enterprises, worked in nonprofits and things of that nature, and I always knew that whatever I was going to do, I wanted to ensure I was doing something that had people's best interests in mind. And so when seeing that there was a competition just like this, it was very intriguing to be a part of it.
Awesome. Caitlin, would you be able to provide us some insight on how you heard about it and what motivated you to enter?
Yeah, of course. So I heard about the Changemaker Challenge from Julie at the Blackstone Launchpad at Temple. I was super involved with Julie, and Julie guided me all throughout the whole process of every competition I was involved in. And after I heard about this challenge, I was motivated to join it or participate because it was really applicable to my startup and provided a good positive social change with a positive intention. And the Changemaker Challenge provided a great opportunity to further develop my business plan and pitch. And at that time, I knew whether or not I would make it far in the competition, I would learn so much on being a good entrepreneur anyways. So that's why I was motivated to join the competition.
Amazing. James?
Hey, yeah. So I actually was lucky. I had just finished my senior project I talked about, and we had won first place in our senior design competition. So we came in first in our cohort, and I had this product that I designed that I was still really cared about. It was a waterproof prosthetic device designed specifically for people with below knee amputations. And I'd during that time connected with a lot of amputees who told me they really wanted it. And I felt I couldn't let it die as a school project. So I just kept kind of figuring out how to make it real and make it into a business. Obviously, I was an engineering student, not a business student. So I was kind of posting about it on my LinkedIn, and I had another engineering student who had already gotten involved with the IEI. He actually messaged me and told me about the IEI and how I could find, he connected me with Greg Fegley, and I met with Alan and learned about this competition that I could enter with my idea. And so actually just decided to enter and tell my story and tell how I could raise funding for the idea. It still wasn't a business yet, it was just an idea. And so I really found a lot of support with the IEI to turn my idea kind of into more of a reality. So yeah, it was really, really nice to connect with the program and then actually to win. So I think I was motivated to do it partially just because I wanted, it seemed like the logical next step was to try to do some of these pitch competitions, raise more money. We had not won too much money in I think we won collectively as a group $1,000. in the senior design competition, but like to start a business, you actually need a lot more funding. So this, like, that was definitely part of the motivation, but also just to like get my idea out there and start turning it into like a business plan. And so that money was, we were able to actually register the company as an LLC and start, we had already some fees for patents and things like that. So this helped us to cover those and actually really kickstart the company. And obviously it was a social mission. So it was really, really aligned with what I wanted to do. So that's kind of how I got involved with it. And obviously it worked out. So really, really grateful.
Great. And then Chloe, could you also share a bit about how you heard about the Changemaker Challenge and what motivated you to enter?
Yeah, of course. So I heard about the challenge actually through the class I was in. Alan Kersner was my professor in the Lean Startup course that I took. And that was absolutely, like, I'm not brown nosing or anything, but that was absolutely one of my favorite class that I took throughout my whole like college career, academic career. I really enjoyed it. And I think the reason that I felt motivated was because I felt like that was the first class that I felt like I could take at least what I thought was a crazy idea and actually do the work to see if it was feasible, to do the work to see if it could be something, if it could be a worthwhile research project, and to see if it could somehow make a difference, whether it's an impact on me, on my community, on my friends or family. So I was definitely motivated just to see, could this be worth it? And it definitely was, just because I realized just how passionate I was about research. And so I really enjoyed that. And being a major in communications and a minor in management consulting, I felt like it was the perfect opportunity for me to really practice what I learned in class and apply it. And that I was doing that market research that was super in depth, but I was also communicating with, potential networks and reaching out to whole different types of people with different backgrounds to kind of get their perspectives and their insight and their expertise on how, while formulating all these deliverables for this challenge. So I thought it was a great opportunity just to test my limits. And I think it's fun to do something, different every once in a while, shake it up a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, those are all great points from all of you about getting involved and motivation to enter. Before we move on to our next question, Caitlin, we'd love to hear a little bit more about how you got involved with Blackstone and how that helped you to not only connect with, but also compete in the IEI competitions.
So it was kind of a blur how I got involved with Blackstone. This was so long ago, but if I recall correctly, I think I got connected with Blackstone because I was just doing some simple research online. Like, I know that Fox has a lot of resources. Just after some simple research, I found a contact and just asked for some assistance and how, like, what kind of different resources they can provide to me. So I think, and Julie's the main person in Blackstone, and I'm pretty sure that's how I got connected with them. And the second part of that question, how did it help you connect with and compete in the IEI competitions? Julie kept me in the loop with a lot of competitions that were going on at Temple and nationwide. So whatever was applicable to me, I was aware of it. And I often asked Blackstone to help me with my pitch or PowerPoint and got a lot of good feedback from them. So just using the resources at Blackstone helped me compete in the IEI competitions.
Great. And I'd love to move on to our next question. So all of you talked a little bit about your ideas and everything, but I'd love for you all to elaborate a bit more on your idea and how you came to identify that opportunity. So James, if you'd like to start, I know you mentioned a bit about how it started as a school project, but if you could talk about
let me give a little bit of background just on myself too, because I think the idea is really what's really important. I guess I don't know if you will ask that more later, but for the Changemaker Challenge, like just having a really good idea, I think is really important. And so for me, this is something I've been kind of building towards my whole career, I guess, with the engineering. I actually myself, when I was a young kid, was diagnosed with Lyme disease when I was 8 years old. So growing up, I had a lot of really bad pain and fatigue and a lot of different symptoms related to that. And so I actually went to school for biomedical engineering. Originally not to Temple, I went to Penn State for biomedical engineering. And my idea was I was going to engineer a cure for Lyme disease. Actually, my sophomore year there, I got another tick bite, so I had to drop out of school. And I was in really bad shape, taking a lot of medications, a lot of pills, unable to go to school, unable to really do anything. And so finally found someone who was able to help me, transferred to Temple and got into, switched to mechanical engineering. So with mechanical engineering, I found I could still help people. I did a research lab. We did these exoskeletons. We made robotic devices help people like walk faster, jump higher, kind of like Iron Man. We use them to help people with MS to rehabilitate them. So I was kind of in this field, designing these devices that help people walk. And I got really passionate. I was able to use my engineering skills to help people to live better lives. And so I did an internship with a prosthetics company. I made these like prosthetic fingers for people that were missing parts of their digits. Became really passionate about that. And then for my senior project, a problem I learned about was that for people with like lower limb amputations, I just learned that most prostheses aren't waterproof and they have a really difficult time in a lot of situations. So I worked with my team. We designed a device for people to stand in the shower. That's something we realized was like a real need. And so it's something that's wet, it's soapy, it's slippery, it's not easy to do. And so for us as engineers, we realized like there's a clear solution that we can create for this problem. It was kind of like a design challenge, but also like a real human need that was really obvious. That couldn't believe that there was nothing out there already for this population. So just wanting to fill that need, that's kind of what drove me to start and how the idea kind of came about. So it was like a long journey to get to that point. And obviously I felt really well prepared to solve the problem just with my background in robotics and biomechanics and just design in general. So was really felt like I was able to solve the problem. And that's how kind of the idea came into play and how I decided this is all I want to do is fix this for people. So that's kind of my story behind it. Yeah.
Great. Caitlin, I'd love to hear more about your idea next.
Yeah, so the way that the startup came about was that I remember it was late one night. My friend just calls me up randomly and tells me this idea that he had, and then asked me to be part of his startup. And it was kind of like at the middle of night, and that was kind of how it started. But he told me this problem that his grandma had. His grandma had recently gotten heart surgery, and after the surgery, she suffered from depression and had a lot of anxiety, and she couldn't really get the mental health assistance that she needed here because she spoke Bengali and she didn't know English that well. So there was definitely a gap where non-English speakers in America couldn't find the mental health support that they needed and wanted. And that's really how this mental health startup came about. Of course, there's that option of having a translator in the middle, but that really ruins the whole idea of therapy and doesn't give the person the full experience. So we couldn't find a better alternative for his grandma. And my co-founder, Mohammed, and I just decided that we should make it ourselves.
That's awesome. Chloe, could you tell us a little bit more about your idea or business? Chloe, I think
Oh,
you're
it's
muted.
muted.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. After all this time, I'm still having to work on the mute button. But yeah, so my idea was Firefinder, which was a long-range fire detection and communication system, 360 degrees. And how I came to identify the opportunity. So one, I think we've all seen in the news over the past, I mean, it's been prevalent for a long time, but over the past few years, there's been a lot of news like releases on the devastation that's happened in a lot of our national parks, our forestry, and the impact it has on wildlife, humans, property. So it kind of struck in like a close nerve, just because I personally love being out in nature. I love hiking. I love being out there. And then also my partner is a firefighter and an EMT. And so through that relationship, I've also gotten a little bit of exposure to understanding a little bit more as to, sort of what their day-to-day requirements are, as, within their roles, and what's expected of them. And of course it differs depending on your specific role or the state that you're in, and all those different types of, like regulations and that. But throughout the years, I kind of just always something that I wanted to learn a little bit more about. And I took those two separate interests and I tried to just delve deeper and do that research into it. Cause like I said, I really love market research. So it's just something that I was like, oh, this could be a really good like passion project. So it's something that I looked into, and like I said, it was sort of a big idea, but I talked to Alan and I was like, is it too crazy? Is it too big? Is it too weird? And he was like, no, you don't know until you try. So I just went for it. I was really excited to learn more about the industry, to learn more about what our environments are like, what causes wildfires, what causes, those types of situations, and how are we currently reacting to them, and how those processes have evolved over time. It's super interesting, research to look into. So yeah, that's how I identified the opportunity.
Amazing. And then finally, Will, would you like to tell us a little bit about your idea and how you came to that opportunity?
Absolutely. So I'm the youngest in my family, and all three of my older siblings have intellectual disabilities. So I have two brothers on opposite ends of the autism spectrum, and I have a sister with Down syndrome. And I learned from an early age that it wasn't that my siblings really had trouble accessing the world. It was that the world was made inaccessible to them. And I saw that there was a lot of opportunity for inclusion through sports and entertainment and the arts. My brother was a part of community theater programs, Special Olympics, all of these different things. So that was the premise of going to Temple for sport and recreation management, was looking at equitable ways to promote inclusion through sports. I was fortunate to work for the Sixers all throughout my college career, worked in a lot of different areas, from league offices to NGOs to nonprofits, and did my senior thesis on what are the different ways to promote equitable inclusion in sports. Won't bore you with the dissertation, but there are essentially 8 different pillars to promoting inclusion in sports, from team-driven initiatives, from hiring practices to player-driven initiatives. But all of these things kept coming back to this concept of web accessibility. And I was like, well, what is web accessibility? And it started learning a little bit more about what that actually means, that a lot of people that are blind or low vision or motor impaired or whatever it may be are utilizing assistive technologies to access the web. And unfortunately, there was a study done that over 96% of websites fail basic accessibility testing. And it was also coming from this premise that a lot of these organizations were doing this performative inclusion through diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we're forgetting the letter A for accessibility. And so I started really learning more about this premise of web accessibility, and learned that it was not also just a good thing to do. It was also a legal compliance requirement, where there was this massive increase in accessibility lawsuits. And so people's introduction to accessibility was through lawsuits. Accessibility is the right thing to do. I realized it wasn't just a sports specific issue. And that was where Nebula Media Group really started to take shape, was understanding that there was a massive market opportunity that not just was helping people from a compliance perspective to avoid getting sued, but you're doing the right thing. And that was what was really intriguing for me to get started with this business. Being a founder that had never written a line of code, running a technology company was very intimidating, but it's given me a lot of perspective on how to make things simple and approachable. And so that idea really kind of grew throughout my time at Temple, through the Changemaker Challenge, through the Be Your Own Boss Bowl, Startup Studio, all the different programs. I was really thankful to continue to nurture that idea and really understand the market opportunity to where I'm still working on it today, and excited to continue to grow it.
That's awesome from all of you about your ideas. So when developing your idea, I love to know about any surprises that you uncovered during your journey, and what kind of help you received specifically from the IEI, but also how that helped you to solve any of those issues, surprises that you ran across during your journey. So Chloe, would you like to start on this one?
Yeah, sure. So the IEI provided some really key opportunities and I think point of contacts that were super helpful. I believe I went to all of the mentoring like opportunities, and I met a couple people, or virtually met a couple people that were super insightful and had great questions, and I was able to relay my ideas and get their questions that allowed me to think, oh, I didn't even think about that, or maybe I should delve into that a little bit more, or I can see how that could be a problem, or I could see how that could be a benefit. So I think having those little brainstorming sessions and taking advantage of the opportunity of just like bouncing off ideas and seeing what kind of either feedback or pushback you're getting will really help strengthen your business pitch towards the end of this opportunity. So I really did love the mentoring. I thought that was great. And then I also was in contact with some people that were, I guess, I'm not sure if they would be considered like a think tank per se, but they had like their like grants for people wanting to do like startups and such, but I didn't apply for the grant or anything at that point. What I was doing was I was just trying to reach out to those point of contacts that were a part of that organization, and just trying to see if I could get more information from like either subject matter experts or engineering experts or people that I could ask technical questions to understand sort of my limitations and the opportunities that were available. And I got that through the IEI network. I got to know those different people or those different orgs that I could potentially email or call or whatever was more convenient at the time. So I would definitely say, just if you need to reach out to your professors, but also your classmates can be really great. Those who are majoring in like engineering, if you know, they can be a great resource, or their teachers might be. So it's really just playing on the, you know, their connections and all that. So that was really what helped me, was like forming that network and being able to leverage all their expertise. So yeah, that helped me.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about engineering, so maybe next we'll go over to James, our who was in the engineering school. So if you could talk about a little bit about that, and or a little bit about the hiccups that you might have encountered, or surprises, and how the IEI kind of helped with providing resources for that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even express how many like resources came through the IEI since I started with them. I would say I'd probably talk more after the Changemaker Challenge, because I actually connected with the IEI. I met with Alan and with Greg, I think in in January and then applied for the Changemaker Challenge like the same month. So there wasn't a whole lot there, but they did help me like kind of formulate my idea, reviewed my video pitch that I did. Definitely take take advantage of those mentors that are on Startup Tree. That's probably one of the biggest things is you can just go, it's literally a cheat code. Like go on Startup Tree and you can just look up mentors. If you have a marketing problem, go find a marketing mentor and just like set up a meeting with them. They're literally there to mentor you, and you can just ask them questions and like tell them about your business, tell them your problem. They've been there before, they can help you. So I met with so many mentors. That was probably the biggest thing, is I would just keep scheduling meetings with mentors. And especially Greg, I met with Greg like once or twice a week. Basically just continued meeting with him, which was really helpful for developing my pitch and everything. But whatever problem I had, they were helping with. And then obviously the money from winning the competitions was a big help. But on top of that, so after the Changemaker, we did the Be Your Own Boss Bowl, and I had success there as well. And that startup studio program, I found that super engaging, very helpful. And we had a service package. So you had asked about hiccups. The big hiccup for me was production, because I really needed to develop more prototypes and I was having a really difficult time. So one of the connections I made was with a group called NextFab, which is located in Philadelphia. And we got like a service package with NextFab through our prize, like our prize award in the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. That came from the IEI. So we actually got this like 2-month membership with them, and they helped us to scale up our production. We made these urethane casting molds, which we're now using to make more products. So that was because of the IEI. All of a lot of the success, at least that I can definitely attribute directly to the IEI, developing my pitch, like turning my ideas, my vision into something that actually is like a tangible business that can function and help people. So that's my testimonial. But really, thank you so much. That's kind of some of the things I've gotten out of it. If I ramble on, I'm sorry. I just get so passionate about this. Thank you.
No, we're glad to hear all of it. We're glad to hear about all the opportunities that you had. Caitlin, are there any specific opportunities that you've had from the IEI or had that helped you get through any issues with or setbacks or surprises when starting your business?
So whenever I had challenges within the startup, I always sought help from CSPD, professors, IEI, Blackstone, and just Fox in general, and also organizations outside of Temple. So I really just looked anywhere, and but IEI of course does provide a lot of help, and it was amazing to just receive feedback from experienced professionals. Yeah, it was a lot of good resources out there. You just have to look for it, and it's pretty accessible to everyone.
Yes, and then Will, real quick before we hear from you, I just want to remind everyone that there are a bunch of links being added into the chat for the different resources that people are talking about here, including the mentoring, the Startup Tree link to mentoring, and a link to NextFab, along with some others. So Will, I'd love to hear from you about that question as well.
Absolutely. I think fellow panelists covered it all very well. I think the only thing I can add on top of it is don't be afraid to be looking at your peers as well. There's other people that are starting their own businesses at different phases of their journey. And I know being a part of the student organization, I believe it's ESA, as well as being a part of the different classes, being a part of Professor Kersner's class, being a part of Dwight Carey's launch a micro venture in 100 days. It was really great to be in a similar position as a lot of other entrepreneurs in the space. And so be able to bounce ideas, think what some of the best practices were. Sometimes you just need that kind of sounding board. So definitely being around your fellow students, I think, gives you a lot of valuable insight as you're preparing for this as well.
Amazing. Yeah, just that's sorry, that's great to hear from everyone about the different resources that you've got, that you've taken from Temple and used from Temple. So just a reminder to look in the chat again at those links, and make sure to copy them, bookmark them in your browser so that you have them. I think we're running low on time, so I just want to ask what you all learned from the experience of doing the Changemaker Challenge, and what you would want future participants to know about competing in the Changemaker Challenge. So Will, if you'd like to start this time, if you could answer those, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. What I have learned, I think, from doing all of this is that the Changemaker Challenge, and I was part of the Innovative Idea Competition, was one of the social impact track winners of the Be Your Own Boss Bowl for my senior year. It's ultimately choosing a pathway and kind of running with it. One of the best pieces of advice I've gotten from a mentor is the minute that you're going after fundraising is the minute you're no longer a founder, you're a professional fundraiser. So starting to think about it from what are the different perspectives of who do you want, what game necessarily are you wanting to play? Are you going to participate in these types of pitch competitions, which is great. I've been fortunate to be a part of different cohorts where people are pitching competitions around the country, around the world. It's a really cool thing, but it's also a lot of time, effort, and energy. Do you go the VC route? Do you go the grant route? Like there's all different types of avenues that you can explore. The route that I was choosing was going through and making those pitches through Changemaker Challenge, Innovative Idea, Be Your Own Boss Bowl, and then fortunate to be a part of these 2 accelerator grant programs here in St. Louis. So just something to consider, as well as like, how do you want to position yourself in this space? Everyone here has a great story and a great initiative, and which pathway do you think will get you to where you want to go and where you need to go?
Awesome. Chloe, could you provide some insight on that as well?
Yeah, so I would say, like, based on what I learned from the experience and what I would really hope that, future participants can take from it, is that I think the biggest impact on me for the long run was practicing for the pitch. I think that was a huge learning experience and something that I've been able to take with me in many different aspects. So whether you are having your own business and you want to hire people, I think it's a great experience to be in this challenge, because you're looking at qualities that you found valuable during the experience. So being able to communicate, being able to, research, being able to have good ideas and to do problem solving. So those qualities are all super important if you're going to start your own business, or if you decide to work for a company or some other type of organization and you're interviewing yourself and you have to provide a resume. I think it's really great practice, and it's a great conversation starter to say, I identified a problem in my community. This is how I planned to solve it. This is the research I did behind it. This is the pitch I gave, and this was the end result. And so I think whichever route you go, it's extremely beneficial. And I think you can take something from this experience, however way it ends. And I think it's extremely valuable. So I would definitely take, as much, soak it all in as you can. And yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. So yeah, thank you.
Caitlin, I'd love to hear from you next about this.
Winning second place in the competition 2 years ago proved to me that other people could see the issue that we're talking about. And it was also really validating to myself because I conveyed the problem well enough to show the significance and need for the startup. And you really need to truly believe in yourself and believe in your startup that it solves a real problem. If you don't believe it, no one else will believe it. We're all fortunate to be Temple students because Fox provides a lot of opportunities and resources to young entrepreneurs like ourselves. And you just need to make the initiative yourself and just try the best that you can. It's all attainable. All the resources are here. You just really need to start it up yourself.
Amazing. And then James, what did you learn from competing in the Changemaker Challenge, and what would you want for future participants to know?
Yeah. What did I learn? Like, I think I echoed the same thing. It totally validated what I was doing. You win first place in a competition, like that means you won. Like they like your idea. Other people, and it's not like the competition is scarce. Like people are competing for this and they're trying to win. And that means the judges like chose your company. They want you to be successful. They want you to go forward. And so that's something you learn from winning. But even just before that even happened, before I even entered the competition, I got that validation. I met with Alan, I met with Greg, and they loved the idea. They were so excited. They couldn't wait for me to enter. So just getting that, even that like one person to validate you, that's why you should try. At least go try. You can't hurt to try, right? So that's something. And then what I want other people to know, I think, I guess the name of this whole thing was like how to win, right? So I think for me, like tell your why. Why are you doing this? Why what's the reason that gets you out of bed in the morning? Why are you starting this thing? Tell that story, why it's important to you. I think you can go watch my pitch from last year on their YouTube, on the IEI YouTube, and definitely I get that across, like why am I doing this? So I think that's something that's really important. And then just make it clear, make the world know why you want to do this, and you'll get that in. So that's kind of the main thing I'd want people to know is just tell your story, and like Caitlin said, believe in yourself and believe in your mission. And other people will too. They'll back you up. We'll be watching, other contestants are going to be watching. They're all trying to do the same thing. So you should join them and give it your best shot. Definitely can't hurt. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for all of your insights. I asked all of the questions that I have prepared, but I want to open it up to the audience, to everyone who is here watching. Wondering if anyone has questions. You can put them in the chat, or I think everyone's able to unmute. So if you can unmute, you can ask your question.
I'll unmute myself for a second. You talked about a lot of the joys and benefits of entering. I'm sure at some point as you were entering or about to entering, you said, what the heck am I doing? Why am I doing this? It's a waste of time and effort. Not to put words in your mouth, but if you had that experience, can you describe it and how you overcame it to keep on moving? And that's open to any panelist that desires.
Actually, I really distinctively remember this. Since you have to make a video to enter, I had to record the video probably 10 times, and my co-founder kept saying, you need to smile more, you need to sound more enthusiastic, and like kept helping me change the words. It was hard. It was kind of nerve-wracking just to be judged by this video, but it was all worth it, and the pitch turned out really good. So I'm super proud about that. But there was definitely a moment where I was like, why am I doing this? Like, what the heck? But it was worth it.
I would say like I was like all by myself doing this one, and that was really scary. Like I think I'm going at it alone because it's just you making a video in your room, like, and you're just like, all right, just send it off. You don't know what's gonna happen. I have later since reconnected with my one of my senior design partners, Amoya. So we're kind of doing these pitch competitions together, which is a lot more reassuring. So If you can find like a good team around you, that's really helpful, I think, for these two. But and if you are going alone, then just make sure you have that drive and the willpower. Like you can do it. And meeting those mentors will really help you. So that's my recommendation, because they give me the confidence I needed to get through it. So yeah.
I have a question. Uh, uh, Hi, I'm a student in the Lean Startup class. And maybe it's not really about like how to lean the contest, but I'm just curious how you like feel sure that this is the product that the customers really want. Like, in what sense do you get that like feeling of confidence?
I'd love to answer that part. I think the question was like, how do you know this is the product the customers like really want, right? So
Yes.
for me, because I started this, I said, as my engineering project. Actually, the first thing we did before we designed anything was we went out and talked to people with amputations. So I went on Instagram and I looked up #amputee, and I actually just started messaging people and asking if they would talk with me. And then we did Zoom interviews, and I spoke with over 20 people with lower limb amputations before I even started designing anything or making a product. And so I think that's a really big important thing that I learned through the IEI, through that startup studio program. It kept getting drilled over and over. Talk to your customer, talk to the people that would use the device, who's your target market. That's something that's really, really important. But if right now it's just an idea, that shouldn't stop you from like entering the competition or going forward with your idea. Like, definitely continue developing your idea, but definitely as you're doing so, make sure you're talking to those target audience and figuring out what it is they want, and it'll actually help you make the product better because it's something that they really want. So I hope that helps.
Thank you.
I can add a little bit more to that as well, is that when you're doing these customer discovery interviews, it was a piece of advice that I've taken to heart to listen to people talk, is that you don't want to lead the witness. Like, you're not trying to ask the question of like, how would you feel if we gave you this product or service? You want them to speak openly and freely about the problems that they're having. And the key words that you're really listening for is "I wish." And that is something that really resonated with me, especially when I was talking with individuals in the disability community that had problems accessing the web, when I was talking to companies that had been sued or at risk of being sued. It really gave me perspective, thinking that I had a hypothesis, which changed multiple times throughout my time at Temple, throughout multiple competitions. But listening to what the end user and what the companies were saying, rather than trying to get them to the solution I thought that they had, really helped me refine and give them exactly what they were asking for. So when you're doing those customer discovery interviews, you want it to be more open, and you want them to give you the problem that they're having, and listening for those kind of keywords.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would even add on that, like, just an example, like when I was doing those interviews, something that kept coming up was that when people go to like a hotel, and they go to the bathroom in the hotel, they don't have like a shower chair there, and they have to sit on the floor in like the hotel bathroom. So we actually made the product compactable, so you could take all the pieces apart, put it into a small bag, and take it with you. And so that's something that only came because we talked to customers and find out what are you actually looking for so we can design it. It's not something like I would have just thought to make this thing collapse on my own if I didn't do those interviews. So the interviews are really key, and listening. Actually, the most important aspect of engineering is empathizing. That's what I really firmly believe, and I think that's even not just engineering, but any entrepreneurial venture, you really need to empathize with your customer and understand them. So that's another add-on to Will's message there.
I have a question. I'm an alumnus. I'm not a student. I've been out of Temple for a long time. And I'm not very tech savvy. The product that I have in mind is I think will be best delivered as a app for a smartphone. So I'm not tech savvy. Actually, I don't even like technology, but I think that's the way to go for my product. I've gotten a little bit of feedback from some potential customers. I definitely plan to get more after listening to you guys talk. But I'm wondering what like advice or comments would you have for somebody like me who's not tech savvy, but they want to do a technology product like a phone app?
I could speak to this. So I'm also not that tech savvy, and the mental health telehealth was supposed to be an app. We first had it as a website, but then I kind of forgot why we changed it to an app. There was a good reason, but we wanted to make an app out of it, and we wanted to host it on AWS. It's this cloud platform, and I mean, at that time, I didn't really know what it was, what to do with it. But to be honest, I feel like you just have to learn it. Like you literally have to force yourself to do it if you want your idea to come to life. So it always helps to have expert advice, ask people that already know what they're doing and what they're talking about. And also try not to get scammed. That happened once. So you just gotta be careful.
I was in the same position that you were in, Eli, when I'm running a technology company, and I personally have never written a line of code in my life. And so learning and understanding how do you run and manage a technology company is that you can utilize no code tools as well. There's different drag and drop interfaces and things that you can even leverage that look automated, you can do manually on the back end just to validate your idea. The last thing that you want to do is the principle of if you build it, they will come. You want to take more of an agile approach of understanding if this is something that people are even going to want to be a part of. So what we did originally when we were looking at accessibility consulting and technology solutions was that we used some no-code solutions in a simple filled out form that a client would fill out. And they thought that everything happened automatically on the back end, but it was really just a Google form going in, and we did everything manually on the back end. And so we learned and validated very quickly without having to build a $20,000, $30,000 tech solution that yes, this was working out great, or no, this is something we needed to iterate on. That's one of the problems that I think is just something to consider, as well as that you don't want to build everything up and get all of this feature creep and then be shocked if nobody ends up signing for the service. You want to ensure that you have this proper fit, and you can leverage it through a lot of low cost solutions to achieve that product market fit. And then as you start scaling up, you can build in those automations and bring in those technical resources as needed. It's just a different perspective, but figured I would share.
Yeah, I think I might even have a different one, but my recommendation, Eli, obviously I think Will maybe has more experience with this. I'm more like the engineering guy, the tech, so I really understood the technology, and I think that really helped me. So from my perspective, my recommendation would be to find yourself a technical co-founder, someone that really understands how to code. I don't know the specifics of the program you're trying to develop, but it sounds like you might be more like the business guy, the visionary. But what you need is somebody that can really understand the technology and doing that, like kind of the aspect of the business for you. So that's another way to go about it. Otherwise, like definitely figure out how you need to make it, and at least get some advising from someone with that kind of expertise, so you understand what you need. And best of luck for you. That sounds a really great venture for you.
Yeah, thank you all. That's really great advice and a lot of good insights. It's actually helping to guide my next step. So thank you very much.
Yeah, best of luck. there any more questions? I love to answer the questions. You can ask any of us. We did this one last year or the year before, so we're really happy to answer if you have any.
Hi. Hi, so I am going along the same line. I just have a question in developing technology, or I guess Will and Caitlin, James too. I am developing a type of technology that is more pivoted towards bio students in general. Not really, but it's more, you could take it as broad, like anyone is able to access it, is what I'm trying to say. But would you guys recommend any model to start off on, or any platform that you can start building and putting all your pieces together?
Are you looking to build a community aspect, or what is the kind of specifics that you would be looking into building out?
So it's not really pertaining to the humanities. It's more what I would say is more like a Google search engine. So yeah, no, I'm just having trouble putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, Kira, I think what I would recommend is really try to get a better ability to explain your idea just in a PDF. Like write the PDF first. What's the app going to do? Who's it going to help? If the PDF's really good, then the app itself can be really good. But you need to really write out your ideas. And kind of even maybe you could start in PowerPoint. You don't have to start building an app right away. You can see how's this going to flow. How is the person come in here? I think start just writing more of your ideas so you can give that elevator pitch, that be able to explain your idea in 10 seconds. For me, it's I help people with lower limb amputations to stand in the shower, right? That's very clear, succinct. You got the point. For you, I think you just need more clarity on that. And that'll really help you a lot with actually making what you're envisioning.
Hi, Kira. This is Lindsay. I work at the IEI. Something we recommend a lot is, if you haven't proved your concept and you're going to go ahead and spend money and build an app, build a wireframe. Literally hand draw, or like James said, in PowerPoint, in Microsoft Publisher is really easy. Draw what you think the screen will look like. If you click this button or that button, what's going to happen next? Here's the next screen that'll pop up, or search button, or prompt that people are going to get. So you're not investing too much time and money into the actual app before you know what somebody wants or how you want it to work.
I think more on the specifics, if you wanted to look at like a functioning prototype, kind of alluding to like my previous answer, there's an app, like a no-code solution called bubble.io, that allows you to build these kind of working prototypes. And that's a fairly minimal investment to get somebody to help you envision and build out those things, exactly what everyone's been alluding to, for under $1,000. So that kind of gets you all of the momentum that you would need to at least have something that's functional, to be able to get people to quickly understand and try and validate that idea, rather than spending to $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on trying to build these things out. I'm a big proponent of utilizing those no-code tools to at least build out that preliminary functionality, and then quickly iterating and validating and failing, so you can understand what's working and what isn't. But just echoing what everyone else has shared here as well.
I had actually used bubble.io at one point as well. And then another platform that I had used is called Figma. Those are no code, low code solutions that can help you visualize your product.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I've gotten a recommendation for Figma, so we'll definitely be checking that out.
Cool. Good.
Anyone else have questions? No? Okay, so we're gonna wrap up. I do want to make two observations, but first, a giant thank you to Ellie. Great job, extraordinaire. I'm glad that title did not put any pressure on you. I also want to give a giant shout out to our panelists, Chloe, Will, James, and Caitlin. You know, it's interesting. We started this program 7 years ago to try to create a unified cross-university forum to both motivate and enable students to get involved, students and alumni and staff, to get involved in changing the world. Because it's all too easy to sit around and talk about it. And in many of the classes at Temple, you talk about the issues and you walk out feeling sort of powerless. And we created this program to say, you can make a difference and we're going to help you figure out how. And, you know, I've known the panelists combined for probably about 12 years. And I still get a little pit in my stomach when I listen to them talk about, you know, what motivated Will for this accessibility initiative and what his siblings have gone through. You know, I remember Chloe, and I hope you don't get mad at me for sharing this, but when Chloe was in the competition and the judges asked what motivated you to get involved with Firefinder, she actually got choked up and she talked about the time she had to wait for a significant other to come home from a fire because she didn't know if he'd be home safely, because it took so long for them to learn about this fire after it was already out of control. And, you know, James, although you had mentioned it before, I forgot your Lyme disease story. And, you know, as we know with COVID, we all run into things, and to turn that into positive is great. And Caitlin, there are, as we know, all too many people who don't have access to the care we need. And one of the examples I think I mentioned in my class the other day was the lifespan, if you live in Rittenhouse Square, is I think 30 years longer than if you live within a 3-mile radius of Temple University. So just listening to what inspired these individuals inspires me, and I hope also inspires you. Now, I am going to see if I could go back to sharing my screen and give you, let's see, can I do this? Yeah. Give you a couple links. I also just want to say, and some of you are in Lean Startup, but one of the things that amazes me as I listen to James, you know, as I listen to Chloe, listening to your customer is the first thing you should do if you have any entrepreneurial spirit. And I would argue, as someone who likes to think they're a relationship expert, and sometimes that comes from failing, the first thing you should do in life is always listen to the other side, the customer, whoever it is that's not in your head, because they're going to give you perspectives and insights that you'll probably never have on your own. Okay, off the soapbox, Alan, I'm off. Oh, sorry, I went the wrong way. Okay, so one of the things we always want to do, because everyone in IEI is focused and constantly providing you more valuable services and programs, please take a scan here. It's a quick survey. We're always interested in how we can improve our programs and improve the IEI offerings for students and alum throughout the university. And then lastly, I know everyone's always interested in either suitable points for undergrads, and Lindsay, this is the first time I've seen this. The Guild's Guild? Is that for graduate students?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. I know you were talking about that at a meeting today.
Mhm.
So whether you're undergrad or grad, if you're within Fox, you could get points. If you're not within Fox, hopefully you got a lot of inspiration and joy. Last thing, hopefully we'll see you next Wednesday at how to raise money for your social impact idea. And I strongly encourage you, whether you think you have a great idea, a not great idea, if you give a damn about what's going on, enter the Changemaker Challenge. It will help you personally and professionally, but more importantly, you really have an opportunity to help those around you and those you care about. Lindsay, anything you'd like to say to end?
The video recording will be on YouTube in a couple days, and I tried to share as many links as possible. If you feel like you missed something, you can email us at 1810 @temple.edu, and myself, Ellie Allen, or any of our other team members will be able to help get you any links or information that you're missing. James said he applied right before the Changemaker Challenge last year, and I'm only telling this as a nice story. James got second place in the Be Your Own Boss Bowl in the undergraduate track, and the team of young ladies that got first place submitted the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. Same thing, like an engineering capstone. Same thing. They found out about the Be Your Own Boss Bowl maybe a couple weeks before and got themselves together. Got with Greg. If you don't hear us mention Greg Fegley enough, find yourself a meeting with Greg Fegley. And yeah, we're here if you need us. Somebody asked about the recording. It's on youtube.com/Temple IEI. I think I dropped that in the chat earlier. Somewhere. Again. And yeah, reach out to us. We're here to help.
Have a great night. James, Caitlin, Chloe, Will, thank you very much. We'll be in touch.
Thanks,
Thank you, Alan.
everybody.
Thank you,
Have a
Lindsay.
great night.
Thanks, Ellie.
Everybody.